10:22 a.m., June 4th, 1942. High above the Pacific, American dive bombers rolled over and plunged. Sirens screamed, engines howled. Below them sat the heart of Japan's Navy. 4 carriers, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. Their decks were crowded. Aircraft, fuel lines, bombs, torpedoes. Men running, orders colliding, seconds disappearing. Japan had come to destroy Midway and finish what Pearl Harbor began. Instead, at that exact moment, the Imperial Japanese Navy was caught exposed. In roughly 6 minutes, 3 carriers were turned into burning wrecks. By nightfall, all 4 would be gone. And with them, Japan's chance to win the Pacific War. The Battle of Midway did not begin with bombs. It began in a basement. Dim lights, cigarette smoke, charts, fragments of intercepted radio traffic. At Pearl Harbor, American codebreakers were working against time. The most important among them was Lieutenant Commander Joseph Rochefort. His team was trying to crack Japan's naval code, JN-25. It was slow work, painstaking work, a war of patterns and fragments. But piece by piece, Rochefort and his cryptanalysts uncovered something extraordinary. Japan was planning a major operation against a target identified as AF. The question was simple. What was AF? Rochefort believed it was Midway. Others were less certain. So the Americans devised a test. Midway sent an uncoded radio message saying its water distillation system had failed. Soon after, Japanese communications reported that AF was short of water. That was enough. Rochefort had been right. Japan was coming for Midway. And now Admiral Chester Nimitz knew where, and roughly when. This changed everything. Japan believed it still held the initiative. It believed America was stunned, weakened, and reactive after Pearl Harbor and the string of Japanese victories that followed. The Imperial Navy expected to lure out the remaining American carriers and destroy them in a decisive battle. It was a bold plan, typical of Japanese doctrine. Hit first, hit hard, finish the enemy. The strike force was powerful. 4 fleet carriers under Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu. These were not ordinary ships. They were veterans of Pearl Harbor, mobile airfields, symbols of Japanese naval dominance. Behind them sailed a much larger force commanded by Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, support ships. It was a massive operation spread across a wide area of ocean. Japan expected surprise. Instead, surprise was waiting for them. Nimitz made a gamble that would define the war. He gathered every carrier he could. USS Enterprise, USS Hornet, USS Yorktown. Yorktown was especially remarkable. She had been damaged at the Battle of the Coral Sea. Japanese planners assumed she was out of action. But American repair crews worked with astonishing speed at Pearl Harbor. In just days, Yorktown was patched, refitted, and sent back to sea. Not perfect, but present. That mattered. Nimitz positioned his carriers northeast of Midway, hidden beyond Japan's expectations. He let the trap sit quietly in the ocean, patient, still, waiting. On the morning of June 4th, Japanese aircraft struck Midway Island. The attack caused damage, but not enough. Midway was still operational. Japanese pilots reported that a second strike would be needed. That created a deadly problem for Nagumo. He had reserve aircraft on his carriers. Some had been armed for anti-ship attack. Others were being rearmed for another strike against Midway. Fuel hoses were out, bomb carts were moving, torpedoes were shifted. Ordnance crews worked under pressure. Then came another report. American ships had been sighted. Not the full picture, not yet. But enough to force Nagumo into hesitation. And hesitation on a carrier deck can be fatal. His carriers were now caught in transition, not ready to launch, not safely stowed, not protected. At the very moment Japan needed clarity, it got confusion. At the exact moment it expected to spring the trap, it was already inside one. The first Americans to reach the Japanese fleet did not come from above. They came in low, slow, and almost defenseless. These were the torpedo bombers, obsolete aircraft, vulnerable aircraft. Men asked to fly straight at a wall of anti-aircraft fire and fighter cover, with almost no chance of survival. Among them was Torpedo Squadron 8 from USS Hornet. Its commander was Lieutenant Commander John Waldron. Waldron had a reputation for bluntness. He distrusted the search plan. He believed the Japanese were somewhere else. He argued. He broke away. He led his squadron toward where he thought the enemy would be. He was right. Then he kept going. The TBD Devastator was already outdated by 1942. It was too slow, too fragile, too exposed. To launch a torpedo attack, pilots had to fly low and straight toward the target. That made them easy prey. And on June 4th, Japanese Zero fighters were waiting. What followed was slaughter. One by one, Waldron's planes were cut from the sky. Some burned, some broke apart. Some hit the sea in pieces, yet they kept pressing forward. Not one pilot turned away. Not one. All 15 planes of Torpedo Squadron 8 were shot down. Waldron died with his men. Only one man survived. Ensign George Gay. Gay's plane was hit. He crashed into the water. Wounded and alone, he clung to a seat cushion and watched the battle through the oil and waves. Around him floated wreckage, bodies, burning fuel, the vast machinery of war moving overhead. He became the sole survivor of Torpedo Squadron 8, and Squadron 8 was not alone. Other American torpedo squadrons attacked too, from Enterprise, from Yorktown. They also suffered terribly. They came in piecemeal, uncoordinated, exposed. Many were destroyed before they could score a single hit. From a tactical view, it looked like failure. Planes lost, crews dead, torpedoes missed. But war is not always decided by immediate results. Sometimes success arrives disguised as sacrifice. The torpedo attacks dragged Nagumo's combat air patrol downward. Japanese Zero fighters dropped to sea level to chase and kill the attackers. Anti-aircraft gunners focused low. Formation discipline loosened. Attention narrowed. Up high, the sky began to empty. That empty sky would decide the battle. The torpedo bombers had done something no map could measure. They had bent the moment. They had pulled Japan's shield downward and opened the door above. George Gay, floating in the water, would later witness the price and the meaning of that sacrifice. He watched the Japanese carriers burn. His squadron had died, but not in vain. Now came the sound that changed history. American dive bombers from Enterprise and Yorktown were overhead. They had not arrived easily. They had searched open ocean with fuel running low. Some were near the end of their range. Lieutenant Commander Wade McCluskey of Enterprise had a decision to make: continue the search or turn back. He kept going. Then he spotted a clue: a lone Japanese destroyer racing at high speed. It was Arashi, hurrying to rejoin the fleet after attacking an American submarine. McCluskey followed its wake. That wake led him to Nagumo's carriers, and what he found below was almost beyond belief. The Japanese carriers were exposed, decks busy, aircraft being handled, fuel lines out, bombs and torpedoes present, fighters low. The timing was perfect, not by accident, by intelligence, sacrifice, and a few irreversible decisions made under pressure. At 10:22 a.m., the dive bombers attacked. From Enterprise came squadrons targeting Kaga and Akagi. From Yorktown came planes diving towards Soryu. Then the sky fell. The dauntless dive bombers screamed downward through cloud and sunlight. Brakes deployed, noses pointed almost vertically. Pilots held steady under intense fire. The ships below grew larger, then terrifyingly precise. Deck markings, gun tubs, aircraft wings, men running, bomb release, one instant of silence, then impact. Kaga was hit first. Bombs smashed into her flight deck and among her armed aircraft. Fire leapt instantly. Fuel ignited. Secondary explosions tore through the ship. Smoke rose in thick black pillars. Soryu was struck almost at the same time. Multiple bomb hits turned her hangar spaces into furnaces. Aircraft, munitions, and fuel created a chain reaction no crew could control. Flames raced through the carrier with horrifying speed. Akagi, Nagumo's flagship, seemed for a moment more fortunate. Then a bomb found her. One devastating hit was enough. It exploded among armed and fueled aircraft below deck. Fire spread through the ship's core. Command and control began to collapse. The flagship of the Pearl Harbor attack was now a burning trap. In approximately 6 minutes, Akagi, Kaga, and Soryu were fatally damaged. 3 carriers, 3 pillars of Japanese naval aviation, broken almost together. This was not gradual. It was sudden, violent, absolute. The proud striking force that had terrorized the Pacific since December was now a scene of smoke, ruptured steel, collapsing decks, and desperate crews fighting fires they could not defeat. Men dragged hoses through infernos. Others tried to roll bombs overboard. Ammunition exploded around them. Aircraft burned where they stood. The sea filled with debris. Nagumo's offensive power, built over years, was being destroyed in minutes. And still one carrier remained. Hiryu, the last survivor. For a few more hours, Japan still had teeth. Hiryu did what wounded forces often do. It hit back. Her air group launched counterstrikes against the Americans and found USS Yorktown. The attacks were skillful and determined. Bombs hit Yorktown. Then torpedoes struck. The carrier was badly damaged and left dead in the water. To Japanese aviators, it may even have seemed they had struck more than one American carrier. So hard had Yorktown's crew worked to restore damage control between attacks. For a moment, Japan could believe the battle was still alive. For a moment, Hiryu stood as the final blade of the Kido Butai. But that moment was brief. American scouts and strike aircraft searched again. Later that day, Hiryu was located. Dive bombers attacked. And once more, the result was devastating. Hiryu was hit and set ablaze. The 4th carrier was now doomed. By the end of June 4th, all 4 Japanese carriers that had launched the Pearl Harbor attack force into legend were either sinking, abandoned, or burning beyond recovery. Akagi, Kaga, Soryu, Hiryu, gone. A naval air arm can survive the loss of 1 carrier, perhaps 2, but not 4 in a single day. Not with their air groups shattered, not with veteran deck crews dead, not with so much of its trained strength burning on the water. Japan had not merely lost ships, it had lost the ability to recover from the battle. The numbers tell part of the story. Japan lost 4 carriers. It lost 248 aircraft. It lost hundreds of experienced pilots and crew. These were not easy losses. They were irreplaceable losses. A carrier is more than steel. It is pilots trained for years. Deck crews drilled to move fuel, bombs, and aircraft with speed and precision. Mechanics, signal officers, armorers, flight leaders. Men who know how to fight as one machine. Japan could build more planes. It could launch more ships. But it could not quickly replace that level of experience. That was the wound that never healed. Midway ended Japan's offensive capability in the Pacific. From this point on, Japan was on the defensive. The empire that had surged across Asia and the Pacific now had to protect what it had taken. It could no longer dictate the pace of the war with the same confidence. The momentum shifted, slowly at first, then permanently. This is why Midway matters. Not because it ended the war in one stroke. It did not. The fighting would continue for years. There would be more landings, more naval battles, more deaths across islands and oceans. But Midway changed the direction. Before Midway, Japan advanced. After Midway, Japan endured. And the reason reaches beyond tactics or technology. The battle proved that intelligence can outweigh size. Rochefort's codebreakers gave Nimitz sight. Timing can outweigh force. The dive bombers arrived at the exact instant of maximum vulnerability. And sacrifice can outweigh immediate failure. The torpedo squadrons were destroyed, yet their deaths made victory possible. That is the hidden truth of Midway. A larger force was beaten not by luck alone, but by preparation, information, and men willing to press forward into near-certain death. At 10:22 a.m., the Imperial Japanese Navy still believed it could win the Pacific. 6 minutes later, that future was burning. Not because America had more ships, not because Japan lacked courage, but because one side saw more clearly. Because one side was waiting. Because men in slow torpedo planes gave everything, and men high above arrived at exactly the right second. Midway remains one of history's purest examples of a hidden truth in war. Power can look invincible, right up until the moment it is exposed. And sometimes, all of history turns in the time it takes 3 carriers to catch fire.